Before we get started, just to clarify, due to issues that YouTube has with certain words, in particular this one, I'm going to refer to this game by a different title, just a heads up to avoid any confusion. So, Task Force X Kill the Justice League is out, and I haven't played it. And to be honest, I'm probably not going to. The minute I heard that this game was an always online looter shooter live service, any interest I had in it died. I'm not here to trash this game though, I'll let the reviewers do that when they get around to reviewing it. Looks like Rocksteady just plumb forgot to send out review copies to anyone. Really strange how they could forget to do something like that. Anyway, never mind all that. What I really want to talk about is the controversy surrounding this game in relation to the death of a particular character. And in the interest of being totally fair, you might want to click off this video right now if you want to go into this game totally unspoiled. So here's your final warning. So Batman dies, and not just any Batman either. This is the Batman from the Arkhamverse, the Batman that people have played across 4 video games up to this point. And I can understand why people are really upset by this. Hell, I'm actually really upset by how Rocksteady handled this character's death. And this isn't a case of a whiny Batman fanboy who just can't hack it that his favourite hero got killed in a video game. No, the way this death was handled was just so wrong, so mean-spirited, and so ugly, I just had to talk about it. So let's get into it. What makes Batman's death any different from the other members of the Justice League who also die in this title? Well, here's your answer. Admiration. Unlike the other members of the Justice League in this game, I actually know and like this version of Batman. Like I said, I've played him across 4 video games already. I've played this version of Batman when he was starting out in Arkham Origins. I followed his story across Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, and I played as him when his story came to an end in Arkham Knight 9 years ago. I've seen this Batman work alongside Robin, Nightwing, Catwoman, and Oracle. I've seen his relationship with Alfred develop over time, and I've seen him have some truly epic battles against some of his greatest villains. What I'm saying is, I've a pretty good handle on his character. I know this Batman, and I've been through a lot with him over the years, and I really care about him. In contrast to that, I don't know anything about the other members of the Justice League in this universe. Up until this video game, this billboard is the only real acknowledgement that the Flash even existed in this world. There's a handful of references to the other Justice League members scattered throughout Gotham in Arkham Knight, but we never actually meet any of them up until this game. And when we do get to meet the Justice League, they're not the typical heroic versions of the characters we're familiar with. They're all brainwashed. With the exception of Wonder Woman, they're all evil. It's not like we get to see these characters start out good and then we see them get corrupted. No, they're evil right from the start. So when I see these evil versions of Superman and Green Lantern and the Flash getting killed, it's not exactly pulling on my heartstrings. But Batman dying in this game, that hits a lot different because we have an actual attachment to this Batman, whereas we don't with any of the other members of the Justice League. For as many superficial references this game has to the Arkhamverse, I can't find any valid reason why Task Force X Kill the Justice League has to be set in the same universe as the Arkham games. It doesn't add anything story-wise to either of these franchises. It actually gives the story of this game more baggage, and it really doesn't need it. Because the developers wanted these 2 franchises to share the same universe for some reason, it actually creates a really big problem that they otherwise wouldn't have to deal with, which is, what are you going to do with this version of Batman now that he's in a game called Task Force X Kill the Justice League? You can probably guess where I'm going with this next point, but remember the original Metal Gear Solid games? Remember how Solid Snake's story developed and played out across MGS, Sons of Liberty, and Guns of the Patriots? Now imagine that Snake's story wasn't finished in Guns of the Patriots at all, but was definitively concluded in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. A game with absolutely no connective tissue to the Metal Gear Solid franchise whatsoever. And then it ended with Kirby point blank shooting Snake in the head. Yeah, I don't see that going down well with the Metal Gear Solid fans somehow. Do you? And I mean, why would it? And the same is true here with Batman's story in this game. Why would Rocksteady think fans would be okay with the ending of Batman's story in this game, when this game has basically nothing to do with the Arkham series at all? How Batman's death is handled in this game reminds me a lot of how Joel's death was handled in The Last of Us Part 2. Spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2, a game that came out over 3 years ago, and I guess potential spoilers for The Last of Us Season 2 TV show, which is coming out sometime next year. So for those of you who don't know, in The Last of Us Part 2, Joel, the main character you play as in The Last of Us, gets beaten to death by Abby, the daughter of a surgeon that Joel kills towards the end of the first game. While the decision to kill Joel was a pretty unpopular choice on the part of Neil Druckmann, I can at least understand why he decided to go with it, even if I thought that killing Joel could have waited for another game or two. The whole point behind Joel being murdered so violently was to show you that while what was being done to Joel was wrong, Joel himself did equally horrible things to other people. In fact, in the first Last of Us, Joel beats two guys to death in a way not too dissimilar from how he eventually ends up getting killed himself. There's a point to Joel's death, and it's to make you think about the circle of violence in this world. Abby is the bad guy that kills Joel in The Last of Us Part 2, and Joel was the bad guy from Abby's perspective in The Last of Us Part 1 when he killed her dad. When you explore a theme in this way, it changes the way the audience views these characters. Joel wasn't killed for shock value, he was killed off in service of the plot in a way that actually explored a really interesting theme, how no one is really innocent in this world. So having said all that, let me ask you a question. What theme are Rocksteady trying to explore with killing Batman like this? What point are they trying to get across to the audience? What purpose does Batman's gruesome death serve in the story of this game? So let's set the stage. A badly beaten Batman is propped up on a public bench where he's seen to have trouble being able to sit upright due to his injuries. He's shown to slump forward, almost falling off the bench at one point. Harley Quinn starts monologuing about how Batman has caused mental and emotional damage to a lot of people and how Batman's time has passed and it's the squad's time now, I guess. All of this leads up to Harley Quinn drawing a handgun and point blank shooting Batman in the head. And then we get this shot of Batman's body just splayed out in this really undignified position. This just feels really ugly and cynical and gratuitous. Like the writers went out of their way to make this whole thing as nasty as humanly possible. If I was a script supervisor and one of the writers turned in this scene for me to review, here's some questions I might ask them. What were you going for with this death? And why were you so determined to make it as ugly and mean-spirited as possible? What is it exactly Rocksteady wants players to feel here? I mean, am I meant to think Harley is a badass here? Are we meant to like her more now because she knocked off a version of Batman we all liked? Am I supposed to agree with her on some point she made when she was monologuing? The writers are trying to give Harley the moral high ground with this line about Batman having inflicted emotional and mental damage to a lot of people, but that's a little rich coming from Harley Quinn of all people. Wasn't she partnered up with the Joker right up until he died in Arkham City? Didn't the Joker do a lot of emotional and mental damage and worse to a lot of people? I honestly don't know where the writers are going with this monologue or what they're trying to convey with it. The only thing that the writers managed to accomplish with this scene was make me really dislike this version of Harley Quinn. It would be one thing if, in a moment of lucidity, Batman snapped out of his brainwashed state and asked Harley to kill him. But no, instead the writers have Harley looking like she's really enjoying this whole thing. She's taking a lot of satisfaction in executing a badly beaten Batman who poses no threat to her at this point and who can't defend himself. This isn't an empowering moment for Harley. She isn't killing the Joker here. This scene might actually make sense if she was. No, she's executing a good man who's been corrupted and brainwashed into doing things he would never have done. This is just so wrong. Like, from every conceivable angle, it's wrong. And in a creative decision I can't understand, for some reason, Wonder Woman gets the death scene in this game that Batman deserved. Wonder Woman's death is actually handled with dignity. When she dies, the tone is somber. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy with how Wonder Woman is portrayed here in this game. Her characterization is on point. It's nice seeing her get the respect she deserves as a character. It just would have been nice if we could have gotten something like this for the character that people actually played across 4 games and had a strong attachment to. There were 100 directions the writers could have taken Batman's death scene in here, but for whatever reason, they decided to play it as mean-spirited and as nasty as possible. Oh yeah, and there's one other ugly little detail the writers felt they just needed to put into this story. Apparently Batman murdered this universe version of Robin. You don't see him do it, but it's strongly implied that he did. I mean, you could have just left that out. It literally doesn't do anything for the story. It's just needless, edgy character assassination. You know, considering the appreciation people have for the Arkham games and this version of Batman, I wonder why Rocksteady felt it was necessary to utterly ruin and then kill their own version of Batman like this. It feels like they could have sidestepped this whole issue by setting this game in its own separate universe with another version of Batman in this role. A new version of Batman the audience doesn't have any attachment to. Then you wouldn't have to deal with all the baggage that comes with killing off a version of a character people actually like. The character assassination on display here feels so purposeful, but I just can't see what point they were trying to make with it. So let's play along with Rocksteady here for a second and pretend there's a really great reason why Task Force X Kill the Justice League has to be set in the Arkham universe, and that this version of Batman absolutely has to die for some really great reason. Let's do a 2-second rewrite of this story to see if we can find a better way of killing off this version of Batman that fans might have responded better to. I know it's going to be really difficult to top the masterclass in writing on display here in this game, but let's give it the old college try anyway. So Wonder Woman in this story isn't actually brainwashed. She's looking for a way to save her friends. It's kind of odd that Wonder Woman is the character that Rocksteady decided to be the one remaining member of the Justice League not brainwashed, but whatever. In my basic ass rewrite of this story, Batman would have played this role. And since we're committed to murdering every member of the Justice League in this game, and that includes Batman too, let's send off this version of Batman that started this universe in 2009 with Arkham Asylum in a dignified and heroic way. Let's have Batman fail to find a way to save his friends like Wonder Woman, but he dies helping out Task Force X in their final battle with Brainiac. He sacrifices himself and he goes out like a real hero. There you go. The end result is still the same. Batman's still dead at the end, but at least you ended his story in a way that's true to his character. I think people might respond better to this ending, seeing a character they like go out in a dignified way than, say, I don't know, being shot in the head like you would a dog behind a shed who's just become rabid. But that's just me. What do I know? So a bit of a different video this time. This isn't usually the kind of content I like to make, but what do you guys think? What do you think of the story in Task Force X Kill the Justice League? Were you a fan of the Arkhamverse version of Batman? And if so, how do you feel about Rocksteady's handling of the character here? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe and all that jazz. And as always, thanks for watching.